Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy coming at you with another episode in our Let's Play Wushu Chronicles series. And in this episode, what we will be doing is checking out all the NPCs that give out the crafting recipes, and that's about it. But before we get into it and all that, Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for watching and all that stuff, and for your support throughout these first 3 months and all that stuff. And yeah, I hope you find this episode really useful and all that stuff. So before I actually get into it and all that, I'm gonna claim my first identity because I've completely forgotten about it, from the Taoist Temple, and learn that inner. Okay, the skill I already had, so I'll just level that right now because why not? Okay. So, before actually going to the NPCs and all that stuff, let me try and explain this as well as I can, or to the best of my ability. So this would be the blacksmithing profession. As you can see, I've spent no points in it and all that stuff. So how this works more or less, if you're looking to craft and all that stuff. So the first 3 nodes here, they're just being able to craft those specific recipes. So this is just like, for example's sake, let's say this is for like armor or whatever. You need to have this node activated in order to be able to craft armor. Then this would be for weapons or for blades or for fists or whatever. Then you need to have this one learned, and so on and so forth. The only one that is different from them would be this one, because the one in the middle more or less influences your like the precision with which you can craft something. So for example, when this is maxed, it will add additional benefits to what you're crafting. So it will increase the number of the blue stat on gear that you're crafting. So this one would be something that you need to have maxed before you actually start crafting your like endgame gear and all that stuff. But usually before you start crafting endgame gear, you should make sure that everything's unlocked and everything's maxed in here, so you don't actually like waste your materials and stuff like that. Because you can get items, gear, and all that kind of other stuff from different places without having to craft it at the start, until you get the really good recipes that's worth investing into and all that stuff. So with all that being said, I hope that sort of like helps you understand how this would work. So these are mostly just for learning recipes. This one is different and this one is different. This one impacts your efficiency, like I said, and this one I don't know because I haven't like really read into it or tried to translate it and all that stuff. But that's the general gist of things. So the second thing, the higher level that your actual blacksmithing profession is, and the more nodes that you have unlocked, it also grants you access to higher level recipes from these NPCs. So yeah, that's basically it. The higher level you're blacksmithing, the more recipes you can learn from an NPC. And when that central node is fully leveled, you have the highest possible efficiency of crafting the gear. So there is a finite number of recipes that you can get from NPCs, obviously, and some of them come from fights or from offering something to an NPC and then they give you something back. Like for example with this weapon. This weapon, I think I got it in the previous episode, and what I had to do for it is you have to give him a certain amount of money or some materials, I don't remember, and then he will give you the weapon. But in him giving you the weapon, he also teaches you the recipe. So there's different interactions like that throughout the game that will give you certain sets of art, like an armor you can craft, a set of boots you can craft, etc, and stuff like that. I'll highlight the NPCs that I still remember and stuff like that do that kind of thing, and I'll try to tell you about them in this episode. But without any more blah blah, let's actually go and see the NPCs. So they're scattered throughout the world, more or less, and it's pretty easy to kind of like figure out which is which, but it gets a little bit more, not complicated, but a little bit strange to tell who can teach you what without actually like knowing the game. And since I've played it since like the early patches, I already know this by heart, so I didn't need to think about it. We'll start with the first NPC in Suzhou, which I believe is for swords. So I will show him to you now, and then I will also show you the option of how you learn crafting recipes when you're talking to the respective NPC. A good thing about learning recipes is that you get paid for studying with the respective NPC. So you spend a jar, which would be, I'm guessing, like a week or a day or something like that. Well, it's not a day, but it's like 5 days, I'm guessing, or a week, something like that. So you get paid. The standard price is 4 liang 500 wen, which is 500. But from what I remember is that if you level up your money making ability before doing so, you will get more money for spending that time training with them. So that's why I always prioritize money making before crafting anything, like besides medicine, which I kind of need to progress and stuff like that. So this NPC is the one that we can study sword recipes from. So we talk to him, and this is the option to learn recipes. I do not have the crafting option when I speak to him because I don't have blacksmithing leveled at all. So without having it leveled, you can't actually craft things, but that's pretty straightforward. So this is the option for learning swords. And then you can learn, I don't remember, I think it was like 8 to 10 or something like this, and you'll also get other sword recipes from interacting with other quests and stuff like that. So it's not just from the NPC that you get these things. And usually well, it's always been the case in each patch that the highest sword recipe always comes from graduating the Sword Valley sect. So by graduating them, the headmaster will give you an option in one of the dialogues with him to learn that recipe, or you get it automatically when graduating. I don't remember exactly how it works in this patch, but that's more or less the idea. Now this NPC here, he'll be a part of a quest later from Peach Blossom Island, but that's not relevant right now. So we open his shop, and in his shop you have a lot of the upgrading stones required for all this stuff. And you can buy them from here, and even buy the stones that you need for the fixing your dad's armor quest, as you saw in the previous video, or in one of the previous videos. I don't remember right now since I'm after a small break and I don't really remember all the stuff that I did and didn't do. So yeah, you'd basically buy things from him, but there will also be other NPCs later on that you can purchase these materials from, mainly on Peach Blossom Island, because there you will have NPCs that have shops full of goodies, because it's considered to be an endgame stage, and if you've used everything from here to get there, then you can refill your stock there. So yeah, this is the swordsman NPC that teaches you those recipes. The blacksmither here doesn't teach you anything, but he will give you the option to have a conversation with him to learn another sword recipe, which is this conversation right here. So, as I always explained, you talk to him and you get the impression that, he kind of not stole, but like, let's call it quote unquote borrowing, stealing the recipe from one of the other blacksmiths, and you can tell that he's not proficient with it because it's not his own, even though he's saying it's his own. So you have the option to do a good thing and tell him to destroy the recipe, or to teach you the recipe as well. If you ask him to teach you the recipe, you're obviously going to get evil points, but you will get the sword, and you will also get the recipe for this sword. So I picked the evil option, so I also have... Oh, okay, I picked the good option by accident. Well, whatever. It's not super relevant, because I'm not really going to use the sword, but you get the idea. So the first option was the evil one, the second one was the good one, where you ask him to destroy the recipe. So now that that's done, basically he doesn't have anything to offer besides that. So as you can see, I have a new sword in my bag, and this is the recipe that you would have learned. I think you still learn it even if you ask him to destroy it, but I'm not particularly sure. Okay, so on to the next NPCs. We will have, from what I remember, two of them in Nanjing. One will teach us blades, I believe, and the other one teaches you how to craft armors. So we'll start with the bladesman NPC, who will also look like a blacksmithing NPC, and that's how I figured it out initially, that the blacksmiths, offer weapon recipes, but unfortunately that's not always the case, so we'll just go with it case by case, more or less. So we go to Nanjing, go inside the city, and here they're located on the same street. It's just one's at the start of the street and the other one is at the end of the street. Boom. So here we are. Okay, I have to wait for it to load a little bit because there's a lot of NPCs here. Okay, so he still hasn't. Oh, there we go. So this NPC right here is the one that will, I believe, teaches you how to make blades, but it doesn't seem like he's offering me any recipes, so I might have been wrong. So he's basically just an NPC. Okay. Okay, so sorry about that. This one's not the one. I'm sorry, my memory is a bit joggy. I don't exactly remember everything, but you know, I know this one for sure teaches you how to craft armors. So this is the option to rob him, which I don't really want to do right now because I don't want any bad points. This is to see what he's selling, and this is the option to spend some time to learn how to craft armors. So he's the armor NPC. The armors that you learn from him are decent, they're not bad, but they're pretty low level and it's nothing like super special. But yeah, like you do end up using your dad's armor over the things that he has to offer until your blacksmithing is actually maxed. Because then I think you can use the last one that he teaches you really like to a decent point. But yeah, so that would be the armor crafting NPC, and I don't think there's another blacksmith here that actually teaches us blades. I think he's in another city. Yeah, he is in another city. I messed up. He's the one in Yanjing. So yeah, that would be the armor NPC there at the end of that street. And now we'll be heading over to Yanjing to actually cover the blades one. That was the one that was stuck in my mind. So yeah, Suzhou you have swords. In Nanjing you have armor. In Yanjing or Beijing, it translates to a lot of things, but it's Yanjing. That's according to the lore. That's the name of the city. It's Yanjing. So here we will have two NPCs. Well, no, they're like next to each other, so to speak. In this Nanjing, we can not Nanjing, Yanjing. We can learn the blade recipes, and over here in Danting City, Danting Village, I don't exactly remember the name, you can learn the boots recipe. So we'll be going here and then I'll show you the NPC for the boots recipe. So here we go. Once we're in the city, we just go all the way to the back, like close to the palace. And in this building over here, we have this shopkeeper guy. And by talking to him, we have the option to rob him, to see his goods, and the option to learn the blade recipes that he's teaching. So this guy will teach you blades, and the final recipe that he teaches you is by far one of the best blades in the game, in my opinion, in terms of like the effects and the stats that it gives. Yeah, you could get something with higher damage and attack, but those two effects that it already has on it are just insanely good. So yeah, that would be the blade NPC that teaches us how to craft that, and now we'll head on to the one that can teach us boot recipes. My throat is a little bit dry, so I need to keep drinking things. So an interesting thing about this NPC is that at some point he will offer to teach you a special recipe through a conversation option. The boot recipe that he will teach you is now, I think, the best endgame boots in this patch, because they give, I don't remember, it was like 300 flat body methods, so by like, with the upgraded stats you get about like 400 or 500 or some crazy number. So yeah, when you talk to him, you can see that now you have the option to learn a recipe, and what he teaches you is how to craft boots. So more or less, that's how you craft boots and learn the recipes and all that stuff. You can craft any of the blacksmithing items from any blacksmithing NPC, even from your house, whatever. It doesn't matter. As long as you know the recipe and you have the materials to craft it, it really doesn't matter. It's just you can only learn them at these specific NPCs. And while I'm here, I'm gonna add something on top of that by talking to this NPC and challenging the moment sect through this option. If you win this fight, you will get a really good piece of armor that gives you, I think it's like 10 plus 10k to each of these two stats. So that'll more or less be the armor that you use for a while once you're strong enough to take that fight, because there's 3 NPCs and they each have like 6 or 7k HP, and the leader of the moment sect can like one-shot you with his sword move, so he's pretty strong. So yeah, that covers the boots. There's also another sword recipe that I believe you can learn from doing an evil deed and trying to rob this girl here. I'm not sure if it's an inner, a skill, or a sword recipe, but by robbing this girl, she gives you one of those as a reward. I don't remember which right now, but just while I'm here, so you know all the extra little things you can do. Okay, so now we've covered boots, blades, armor, sword. Next up will be in the actual northern desert. Well, we will find the NPC that teaches us how to craft staffs. So for those of you that are interested in using staffs, this guy's the guy you need to talk to. You'll obviously be spending your time at one point or another to learn all of the recipes because of the silver you get for training with them, or by like practicing with them, more or less. I'm not sure if it improves your blacksmithing, but I don't think it does. Don't quote me on that because I don't remember. But you do get money, and money is always useful. So he'll be located here. And there we go. So as you can see, he's also wearing the typical blacksmithing outfit. So yeah. And here he offers to teach you a special recipe for staff. I don't know what triggers it, or if it's automatically triggered. I have no idea. But you can pick to learn this from him, and it's from what I remember, a decent staff recipe. It's not that bad. And this is the normal practicing to learn how to do staffs. So you click on that and you get 450 or more according to your money making skill, and you also get all these staff recipes. So that's the staff NPC covered, and now we'll be going, I think it's the last sword, staff, blade. Yeah, so now all we have left is fist. What I find a little bit ironic and a little bit strange is that there's no NPC that teaches you recipes in the Sword Valley, which is a little bit odd. But once you do join that sect, you do get extra options and extra shops in the sect itself, because they only give access to those shops to their members. The same sort of concept applies to Beast Mountain Villa with their cooking ingredient shop. It only unlocks to disciples, and only they can use it and stuff like that. So make sure that while you are in these sects that have special shops that unlock to their disciples, that you buy everything that you need from them before you graduate and leave, or graduate and betray, whatever you want to call it. So the last NPC that gives us recipes would be in Chengdu. Alright. So while I'm going towards this NPC, the same concept applies with cooking, but with cooking you only get one recipe per each NPC that you visit, and they're scattered all over the world. Like, it's very time consuming to find them all and get all the recipes, but I'll be trying to do an episode on that so you can see all the cooking recipes you can get. And they're relatively important when your cooking is maxed, because when you're doing endgame fights you can buff yourself like pretty well and increase your stats and all that good stuff. On top of that, with cooking, there's also a questionnaire, like a survey among certain NPCs that you go, and they'll ask you what ingredients are used in cooking each specific recipe. So I'll be doing 2 separate episodes on that, like one on how to find all the NPCs and one on how to answer all the surveys, because it's just a lot of people to cover and to talk to and all that stuff. Some of them I might have already done, but I'm not exactly sure. So yeah. Okay, with all that being said, this is the last NPC, and as you can see, we have the option to rob him and the option to study with him to learn how to make fist weapons. So talking with this guy and practicing with him in that aspect teaches you all the fist recipes, but the one that is the strongest is this one that we got from Yanjing by offering that man money and some materials, I believe. So yeah, that more or less covers all I wanted to cover for this one. I hope you find this helpful and all that stuff. And as always, if you enjoyed the content, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can see when the next episode's coming out. If you're interested in translations and have complex questions about the game that you can't really ask me in YouTube comments for whatever reason, because I would ask you for a screenshot or whatever, make sure to join my Discord. The link will be in the description. You can find translations there, ask me for help, blah blah blah, all that good stuff. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, because it does help with the algorithm and all that good stuff. But yeah, thank you guys for watching again, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.